All right. We're recording.
I still just like recording in the corner of the screen.
Yes, it does say recording in the corner of the screen.
No, in their corner. Well, I guess it doesn't matter.
Oh, do y'all see where it says recording?
Yes. Okay, good. That means everyone, like, you can see.
Let me see.
Showing your timeline. Next.
Yes, I see recording.
Okay, perfect. My notes are not on here. I'm just
So is that mean we're on live
I
right
don't
now?
know why they're not showing up.
What do you mean?
My iCloud notes.
You go to your
It's not coming up. Don't worry about it though.
Did you know? Yeah, can you just do it on your phone?
I
Can't you
can.
just?
I will.
You should go in settings to check your notes and people that settings. Check out.
Y'all can talk. I'm just putting in the title maintaining. I hope I'm spelling it right. We're in preview stage. Hills. All right.
Under your iCloud, you just didn't select notes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Is it how a leader shifts?
No. It should be.
Oh, it's under iCloud. That just
okay. I can't.
Meeting is now.
Can y'all see it?
Yeah, meeting is now live streaming.
Yeah. Hey everyone. We are off. We have started. It said, oh, it says start. Can y'all see it on your Facebooks?
Let me go on Facebook and see what I can come up with.
Yay! We're
it
live.
It said start.
Yes, we are live. There we go.
Can y'all see it on your Facebooks? Oh, we see that.
Let me go on Facebook and see what I can come up with.
Yay! We're live.
Yes, we are live. We're going back to Facebook for just one moment because for some reason there is feedback. Back to Facebook for just one moment because for some reason there
Is it how a leader shifts?
Back to Facebook for just one moment because for some reason.
Is there still
I
feedback?
think I did a watch party.
Chelsea's on.
Leave Chelsea on. I'm trying to figure out why we're getting feedback.
Is it how a leader shifts?
I'm gonna stop this one and then I'm gonna restart it, okay?
Chelsea's on.
Chelsea on. I'm trying to figure out why we're getting feedback. Why am I getting? Why am I hearing it double back?
Like it's not muted on the Facebook.
Are your Facebook pages muted? Because I'm hearing the lag time.
Like, are they also on it?
Are y'all also on Facebook Live?
They need to be on the Zoom.
No, I'm
on my phone.
on there, but I didn't click on it because
Is the volume up? Because we're hearing it twice. Dr. B.
Right.
it's not me.
I have all your iCloud stuff. Which one was it?
Okay, we're just gonna keep going. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are here for what I'm calling some critical conversations. A lot of people that I've been communicating with have talked about just having anxiety and dealing with various issues in the midst of the pandemic. And I thought it was important to get with my friends and colleagues who are mental health professionals to just have a conversation to share with others some things that they can do to help bring calm to this, the crisis mode that we're in. And so I brought some of the best of the best. I've already seen some people have joined us on Facebook Live. So we're excited to have this time of just conversation to talk to each other. So tonight I have with us Dr. Jamye Hardy, and I'm going to read a brief bio. She just waved at everyone of, the work that she does. And she is a social worker, an educator, and a student affairs professional. She is a licensed master social worker and brings with her diverse work experience from social work and higher education settings. And throughout her experiences, Dr. Hardy has had the privilege of presenting at several national social work and student affairs conferences, as well as workshops with nonprofit organizations. Jamye also has a published book chapter in Liberating Memoirs and Stories to Inspire Females of Color, titled The Difference Between Giving Up and Moving On, and often collaborates on other writing events and comedy projects. She is a stand-up comedian. Dr. Hardy, say hello and give a little spiel to the people today.
Hello, good people. It is so good to be here with you today. This is such a relevant topic. So thank you so much, Dr. Walker, for your timely guidance as we delve into this topic that is so much more relevant to many of our lives than it has been previously.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Next, we have Dr. Jewell Brazelton, and she is with us. Dr. Brazelton, can you wave at the people?
Hey, everybody.
I'm going to read your bio, and it reads as follows. Dr. Jewell Brazelton is the Executive Director of Black Butterfly LLC Counseling and Educational Services, Community Care Coordinator at American Baptist College, and holds adjunct academic appointments at ABC and Belmont University. Dr. Brazelton earned a BS in Social Work from Tennessee State University and a MSU from the George Warren Brown School of Social Work, Washington University, and a Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Chicago School of Social Service Administration. Black Butterfly LLC was established to provide strategic offerings in counsel, educate, and enhance the lives of African American women, children, and families who have experienced traumatic events. Black Butterfly LLC provides culturally sensitive, trauma-informed counseling and services for individuals and groups. Additionally, it provides educational training on the impact of multi-generational historical trauma in the lives of African American women, children, and families, partners with churches and community leaders to educate the African American community on the historical and cultural patterns and the impact associated with childhood trauma experiences, i.e. sexual abuse, neglect, physical, and emotional abuse. Dr. Brazelton, thank you for joining us tonight. Please give a shout out to the people.
Hello, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you, Dr. Walker. This is such a wonderful time and a troubling time, the best of times and the worst of times, I think. But it's a wonderful time, and we appreciate you coming and bringing us together to talk about the things that sometimes we're afraid to talk about. We all want to be strong and all of those wonderful things, but we need to be able to share, and I thank you for this community time to share.
Oh, this is great. Thank you for joining me tonight. This is helping me. And one of the things I know that I've been sharing with my close friends and others is that this is a time of high anxiety. And a lot of people have been experiencing a myriad of emotions and just some difficult times getting through the quarantine, the drastic adjustments to life, like kind of on the spot. Everybody was doing it. It happened within a week for most people. Kids were home, partners were at home, and so we see different trends that are happening in our communities. And so that's what I wanted us to talk about tonight, is just some strategies on how to overcome some of the difficult moments that we're having. And one of the first questions and you can feel free to guide the conversation. You all are the professional, the experts. I'm just here asking the questions and getting some questions that people have asked of me answered. But one of the first things that I sent to you all to consider tonight is, what are some of the things you've noticed as common trends or a common theme in the area of mental health during this time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, or not that I think, I've seen a lot of uncertainty. I work with college students. So there are lots of feelings that are not common for us, because there are so many different avenues where we get information to know where to go. And many of those avenues of information are getting their directives at the same time that we are. And so that's uncomfortable. And that's something that we have to acknowledge and recognize, that this is not a time that is typical for us. And so I think that allows some space for us to give ourselves some grace in the moment for feeling all of these emotions that we do experience, because this is a time that we have just never experienced before.
Right. Even as professionals, we're learning as we go, because this is a new, different experience that none of us have witnessed before. So we have to back up and figure out, oh, wait a minute, before I talk to my client or before I try to give advice, I have to stop and make sure that I'm on the right track, that my space, that I'm afraid too, all right? Yes, I'm experiencing all kinds of things. So we have to be very gentle, and I love, thank you so much, Jamie, for giving each other grace in times like these, because everybody, we want to do the right things. We're on Facebook all the time, and we're finding all of these things that we're supposed to do, and then we don't get it done. So that puts us in a, oh my God, something must be wrong with me. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. We just have to be where we are at the moment, and God gives us permission to do
that. Oh, that's good. I know, as just someone who's in ministry, I couldn't minister to anybody for those first few weeks. I mean, I did a lot of sleeping, trying to calm down. I experienced panic attack for the first time in my life. And so I was just like, I don't know. I didn't know why my chest kept tightening, and the headaches and all of those issues. And it went on for 2 weeks until I had a major panic attack and had to contact my healthcare professional. And so she was able to prescribe something, and, we were able to talk through some things that I could do, and then contact my therapist, and all of those things that are important that we don't always hear from ministers. We don't always hear from the church. We don't always hear from those who are professionals, but it's necessary. And these are common things that have happened over the past 6 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And especially with pastors. Pastors have been thrown into a whole new dynamic, from preaching in the pulpit on Sunday morning to virtual services, ministering to the health of their congregation. All of those things, everybody, we have all been thrown into.
Yes.
A strange new way of dealing. Okay.
Right.
But I'm positive that we're going to come out of this, and we will have learned whole new ways of dealing with so many different things.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's helpful.
Some of that, what you were talking about, Dr. B, with those missing the in-person church services, there are so many other situations that we were aware of or not, where we encountered other people or these other meaningful events, where now the making meaning out of those situations is left to us personally. Exactly. And that is work that we are not used to. And so on one side of that, there's an experience of grief. There's an experience of loss, where there are many things that once were that are not. Perhaps they will be again, but in the moment, they are not. And we are experiencing the emotional impact of that.
Can we talk about that a little bit more? Because, I've seen some of the posts, and they're like, the church is not a building, it's in us, and all of these things, kind of rebuking people who are complaining about not being able to go to the physical space. But there's so much in a communal aspect that we're forgetting. Like, for some people, that is the only time, once a week or twice a week, that they get to see people. Exactly. So can you talk about that a little bit more, like the importance of being connected, and how this disconnection is disrupting our lives, and people are hurting, they're grieving, they're alone, they feel isolated. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sunday was the first time in my entire life that I did not experience Resurrection Sunday in church.
Right.
So it was interesting at our home, everybody got in their own spaces. We usually sit together, all right? But all of us were in separate spaces because we all had to deal with, whoa, we are not together. I'm a hugger. And so I expect to get at least 50 hugs on Sunday. If I don't get them before then, going back and forth to the, I walk in Kroger now and I have to,
Yeah.
the
From a
distance.
distance, you gotta wave at people across the room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's my pastor. I talked to my pastor yesterday about a client who I had who is expecting the world to end now, and that we're all going to die because she's living in Revelation. All right.
Okay.
So in the book of Revelation. So in talking to him, I asked for a word for her, and he suggested that she read Psalm 91 once every day.
Okay.
Okay. That will help calm her. We were working with other things, but that would help calm her. That would reassure her that God is with us. All right. It's afraid as we are, God is with us. But the realities are we're really not sure what's going on.
Right. And people are grasping for an understanding.
Exactly.
They're trying to find. So that's very good. I mean, just having some people need something that they can be encouraged to do. Like people are looking for strategies, ways of, living. Like, can I read scriptures? I've had people call me saying, well, I had a devotional, but my devotional ran out. It was only for a few days and I need something to kind of guide me through. So scriptures, and I've had, several conversations with people who are saying that prayer groups are helping them. So having, somebody to pray with consistently, and even these Zoom calls, and, people are getting on for like 7 hours, per day, and, however long they're, I've seen my children who are teenagers, they had an ice cream party on Zoom, and that party lasted for 7 hours last night on Zoom. But whatever you can do, it's helpful. And I want us, before we end this conversation today, to talk about some strategies and best practices that people can just implement that will be helpful to them to bring some calm and ease. Okay.
Yeah.
The next thing that I want to talk about is, just what do you do during this time period? So a lot of conversations have come up about, and I've seen these posts on social media regarding what this time should be used for. For example, some people are saying you should write a book, and, how you should come out of this better and being more productive. And then I've seen some that just say, scratch the whole list off, just sleep, just rest, just take care of you. What's your take on, people's different conversations or communications about what you should be doing?
I think there should be a balance. I think you should give yourself permission to just do and just be. All right. And when you're doing that, giving yourself permission to just, I'm scared, I don't know what to do, I'm honoring that, then doing the things that are good for you to take care of you. I think during that calming time, you'll be open to hear what God has to say, and maybe the book title will come to you during that time. So I think we need to kind of learn how to balance that.
Right. That's good.
Yeah. And I think the way that we find out what to do is by stopping and reflecting on the things that have helped us in the past, or the things that we hope to help us in the future, or perhaps things that we are interested in engaging in. We are the ones to know what feels best for us, because no one is just able to tell us that but ourselves. And so in order for us to consider our sources, we're going to have to first understand what it is that our values are in this moment, what it is that we feel like we need, what is it that we feel like we want. Oftentimes in this time, I've heard a lot of, I should do this, and that bag of should is really hiding those words like need, want, expect, and those things really need to be identified. What you expect may not be what you need or may not be what you want, but if it's got this veil of it's judgmental, I should, you're not really taking that opportunity to really decipher what it is that you need to do for yourself in that moment. So before we go out and consider other sources, or as we consider those other sources, also consider what it is that we need or want or value in our lives.
Right.
On our Facebook post, Chelsea Clark says, I think going outside is helping me, even if it's just to the balcony. So that speaks to finding what's good for you.
Right. Well, I told, and that's right. Somebody was saying they go outside for walks. I said, well, I'll open my door up because I'm a big germaphobe, and most people who know me, I had someone text me today, and I hadn't seen them in months, and they were like, I was really concerned about you because I know your issues with germs, and I wondered how you were doing during this time. I said, I have a lot of antibacterial wipes. I have a lot of cleaners. Everything's by my door, but I open up the door, when I get that fresh air. But that's good for me. It works for me on a daily basis. And I know, Dr. Hardy, you had mentioned this to me because I made a video a couple of weeks ago about the acronym FIGHT. And I was just saying, for many people, this may just be a time of reflection. Sometimes you might not be able to put a lot into action, but you can write. You can use this as a dreaming time, a planning time, whatever it is, but you don't have to fully execute everything that you may think about or see other people doing or thought of in the past. It's just a time to just live day by day, actually.
One thing, when I was thinking about this earlier, I was thinking about going from maybe this direction of perfection that we were going from perfection to pivot.
Okay.
How can we change some things? How can we reconsider, look at some things from a different perspective? Because that is what we have available to us right now.
Okay. That's good. All right, so let's talk about some of these hard issues. Because we talked about, the dilemmas that we have about just getting outside of your house. But what about some of those issues that we know are going on inside? The dynamics have changed, and the stay-at-home orders for some is not the best situation. We've heard about some of the abuse situations, domestic violence, child abuse, loss of work, wages, unemployment, food scarcity, just all of those issues. Can we talk a little bit about that? What have you noticed, and what are you aware of that's going on right now?
According to the YWCA, there are numbers in domestic violence. Their calls are getting more and more. Oftentimes, unfortunately, they're not able to get to the people that things are happening to. Children who are in foster care. On Tuesday, I'm going to a video chat about what's happening to those children where social workers can't go in to check on them. Those are very, very serious issues. The suicide hotlines, the numbers have increased drastically because people are feeling hopeless. So those things have to be dealt with, but those are realities right now.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. Hardy.
You had also mentioned education and loss of wages.
Yes.
There are so many different challenges that come with both of those things, and outside of economic impacts to consider, sometimes that looks like impacts on your housing security, or that looks like impacts on other places of your life that were once stable. And so I think this is a time where we must rely on our individual strengths and take an opportunity to do whatever it is that we have the power to do to help our community. Because at this moment, we in our society are the people who are responsible for our own infrastructure. So whatever it is that you feel like you can do, whether that's raising awareness, whether that is asking for help, whether that is whatever that looks like, I think this is definitely an opportunity for our entire community to come together. We really do need each other in this time.
Make sure we check on each other. Just a phone call. Hey, how you doing? Hope things are going well for you. And that could be for not just seniors, but just for people that we know. Okay, just check. It's good to know that somebody is thinking about you at this time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so just a simple phone call. I try to call at least 4 people a day, just to check in and to say,
Okay.
hey,
I love that. Yeah.
So that's important, and you can tell the difference. It makes me feel good to know that they're okay, but it also makes them feel good to know that someone cares.
I've been FaceTiming more. I know I have friends who live alone and they live long distance, from me. And I was like, do you need a FaceTime? Like, have you seen somebody today? And I think that's important. And I know some people, like, the grocery store is the hot spot right now. It is.
Exactly.
Everybody going to the grocery store. It's like an
Right.
event. I mean, and some people go daily. Like I said, they're like, I got my mask and my gloves on.
Exactly.
I sanitize.
Exactly.
But if they're just going to pick up one item, it's just an outing. It's to be able to see people, even if they can't hug or touch. And so I know how important that is. And I know a lot of people have been saying reach out to other people, but I love your intentionality, Dr. Brazelton, where you say you're making sure you contact at least 4 people. That's really helpful.
Yeah. And we can't leave out our children in all of this.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Everything has been shifted for them. Some of these kids won't go back to school. Our high school seniors won't be able to have all those formal parties and graduation exercises. Our college students are gone home.
Yeah.
Just one day you're in class and the next day you're at home and you're trying to negotiate and navigate being at home again. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's good for you to be at school rather than home.
Right.
So you have to re-enter situations at home, not having computers, not having somebody to come by their office and say hey and check on. That's all of those things are issues that we try to call and check on our students. We have a check-in in the mornings for my class. Okay. And it's interesting the stories that they tell. We have a centering moment, and one of them leads them. And it's interesting the stories and the things that are going on, and how they value FaceTiming and having class, at least having class on Zoom.
Right, because it's a getaway from that world that they have to go back to, and so I'm sure that's helpful. So as we talk about, just some of the issues that people are dealing with, I want you to recommend some services that can assist people who are dealing with, like, mental health issues, who may not know who to reach out to. If you're dealing with abuse, if you're dealing with, just on the edge, whatever those services are, I do want y'all to talk about them. I'm going to post them on here.
Sure.
So before we close out, I do want to talk about some services that are available, because I know, Dr. Brazelton, you mentioned the YWCA, and I know that there's some other agencies that we want to put people into contact with to have some help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you know what I thought about, and I haven't heard of this because I know a lot of parents are having to make adjustments, but I do want to know if there are any parent support groups out there, or should this be a suggestion for people to start parent support groups? That was one of the questions that I had for you all.
I think we should. I think that should be a priority, especially if you're working from home and you have children at home who are in classes and they're on Zoom with their classwork, and you're on Zoom with your work, and it makes a big difference. Okay, our special needs children, we need to make sure that we are on point with them. Change is difficult. Change is different. And they are having their own issues with not going to school, not seeing their friends, hearing about the coronavirus. Is everybody going to die? If somebody's in the hospital, are they going to die? Do they have coronavirus? So we have to make sure that we as parents work together. I think support groups are perfect. And you can do it on Zoom. You can do it on TalkChat. You can get on your phones. I challenge you to do those things, to initiate something like that to help us get through those times.
That's helpful. And so that helps us segue into my next question about how have mental health services been transformed during this time. I know, in the past we've seen advertisements on being able to text your therapist, but right now you can't go because you can't physically go into that space. So what trends have you seen? Do you notice that people are doing their therapy sessions online via FaceTime or Zoom, or what does that look like for those who have ongoing therapy needs?
Yeah. So there has been a dramatic increase in the utilization of telehealth and telemedicine, the utilization of that language so that people can even become familiar that is an option for them. And not only mental health, but physical health as well. I had a friend who said that she had her well woman visit was a telehealth visit because she was physically not able to go in. And so with that, there are sometimes some concerns with the technology aspect. There are a lot of people who are not comfortable with being on camera. And that could be for several different reasons. The other side of that is that the field of counseling, the field of mental health is very client driven, or those of us who do the good work in this field are client driven. And so if that is uncomfortable for you to be on a video call, then you can choose a platform where you can live message. If you don't like live messages, you can choose a platform where you can be on the phone. There are several different ways that you can get connected in this time. It is not the same. And so I think it's important to taper our expectations in that means, but you still can get support.
Okay, that's helpful. And would you recommend like people who are struggling, who have never, say for instance, these are people who, some people may have never had a therapist before. They've never seen one, but anxiety levels are really high. They don't know how to deal. They think the world is ending. They may feel like they're going to, contract the virus and die and things of that nature. Or they may have loved ones who have died and they're grieving from afar and can't get to the family. And we need to talk about that as well. Like, how do we deal with the grief? So what would you recommend? Like, should they try to start therapy services during this time? What are your recommendations there?
I think it's very important that they do. I know we as a community have not embraced therapy, but I think this is a time that we should put that out there, that it should be available. I think African-American therapists should put themselves out there. They should be available. They should make themselves available. If you need someone to talk to, call me. If you need this, if you need that. The Council on Black Social Workers, they're constantly online, on Facebook, with issues and helping people work through those. So those are great ideas, I think.
Because it seems to fit right here. Some of those resources that you were talking about, Dr. Walker, that you were asking for, if you are seeking those counseling resources, at times we're not sure where to look. And so one good large resource is Psychology Today.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to put that on Facebook for people to see.
Psychology Today is where you can search for a therapist according to your zip code, according to your needs, whether that's your diagnosis or the concerns you're having, according to your insurance, according to whether you have preferences for a gender identity, of race or ethnicity of your provider, sexual orientation, anything that might help you feel more comfortable in that setting. So Psychology Today is one good resource to go to start. There's also Open Path Collective. Open Path Collective operates very similarly to Psychology Today, but Open Path Collective is specifically for so they have a membership now where you pay a one-time fee, and then for a discounted rate, you can see a therapist that is within that network of the Open Path Collective.
Okay.
And I believe it's somewhere around $45 to $55, maybe $60 per session after that fee. So, and then there's one other site, Therapy for Black Girls. Just want to throw that one out there as a personal favorite. Therapy for Black Girls is a online site. There's a podcast. There's lots of resources on the site. But what we're talking about here is a search engine for Black female therapists in the United States.
Okay.
And perhaps abroad. But yes, but those are 3 resources if you are seeking counseling. And then BetterHelp. We'll go for BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is a teletherapy company, and they are able to connect you with a therapist via video, live messages, or a phone.
Can we talk about that a while? I mean, we threw out a lot of resources out here. I'm still typing. I have to get betterhelp.com on here. But Dr. Brazelton talked about it for a moment, that it's not common in our community. We don't have those conversations often about seeking therapy, but, you know, we need to have that conversation. So what are some of the issues that we face? What are some of the stigmas that keep us from seeking therapy, especially when we have needs like with anxiety or fears or, you know, dealing with a pandemic? Can we talk about that?
So many of us are who grew up in the olden days, I'll say. You didn't talk. What happens in your house stays in your house. If you say that you have a mental health need, or if you express that, that means you're weak. And we are all considered to be strong. If you have an issue, then you are a weak person. And we as people of color have a tendency to re-victimize the victims by saying something is wrong with you. No, it's nothing wrong with you. If Black folks could get through slavery, you should be able to get through anything in this world, not looking at what they had to go through. Yeah. Okay, when we used to hear about people dying, just dropping dead, the trauma and all of the issues that caused that. All right, often, and also economics. We don't have the insurances oftentimes. We don't have the insurances. We don't have the money. Okay, and if we have the money, we're not going to put it on therapy. Okay. So, and then we're very, we call it healthy cultural paranoia. We don't want to go to just anybody because we are always in the space of don't go to that person, Americans, because of the things that have happened to us, all right, in our history, slavery, microaggression that's still going on, all right. So we are afraid, okay? No, you take it to the church, you take it to somebody at the church, let the pastor pray over you and keep it moving because they're going to use it against us, all right? So we have to walk and talk and teach our people, okay? Right. That you can do this, you need this, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay to get those things done. We have now, and we also, as you like, Jamye was saying, I love the Black girls. That's phenomenal because oftentimes some of the therapists have not been culturally sensitive. Okay. So we have to make sure that they are sensitive to what we're handling. They might say it's red, we say it's purple. Right. So they need to be sensitive enough to our community and our needs to know that we call red purple and there's nothing you can do about it. Right? You know?
And know that you can find a therapist that
That's
will call
exactly right.
know that they are out
That's
there.
right. That will take
Yes,
that person
we're
and move and
looking
go with
at
it.
2 African American female therapists right now tonight on here. That's why it's so important. I mean, but you don't know until you know. And
Exactly.
so, you know, I grew up not really, you know, you heard about people who went to therapy. I didn't know anybody who went to therapy.
Right.
And so I knew the first time that I really heard it was okay to go to therapy was 10 years ago when I came to Vanderbilt Divinity School. And it was, you know, an environment and a place, it was a safe space, but also a place that promoted good health. I don't know if it was because the curriculum was so rigorous or what, but they were like, go get you some therapy.
Right.
And that's good because your circumstances were such that therapy was helpful.
Right.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly
was wrong with LaShante Walker by any means, who was just getting that graduate degree.
Yeah.
It is
Exactly.
And it's 2 years. Yeah.
Woo. Yeah.
And all of us know, the 3 of us know what it's like to go get professional degrees and graduate degrees, and people don't talk about that. So people literally have mental breakdowns trying to get through those programs because they don't talk about therapy.
Exactly. Our families know that we left and we came back with these wonderful degrees and they're so proud of us, but they don't know the hell we went through.
Right.
While we were there. We don't know the racism. They don't know all the craziness that we went through. All right. And had we not had therapy to help us get through it, wow, we would have stayed.
All right.
Yeah, but that's a reality. It's a reality. And so we need to be okay to tell our folks that. All right.
Yeah.
We need to be able to tell people that. All right.
We have to normalize therapy in our communities. We have to normalize it. It's not normalized now.
I agree 200%. Okay.
When I was growing up, I would go to the psychiatry appointments with my grandmother. My grandmother had chronic mental illness, several different diagnoses, but she consistently went to her medication appointments, and I was there. But there was no conversation on the family side about kind of about mindset or what that meant or what biology has to do with mental health.
Exactly.
There was very much so this silent element on one side, but on the other side, I was able to see my grandmother went to Meharry. And so I was able to see that when people do get connected to culturally competent, culturally relevant services, people who are going to listen to them, and culture doesn't always have to do with race. I think that's important to say, just because we're having a conversation. That can have to do with your worldview, that can have to do with your religion, that can do with, my therapist is a social worker and a yoga instructor, and I am a therapist and I love yoga. So she is culturally relevant.
Yes. Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's important because, my therapist is a Black woman who understands like my spirituality. So she attends, church on a regular basis. So when I talk about spiritual things in my sessions, she gets it. And that's important to me. So like on the list of things that I was looking for, I could not have anybody who did not understand faith. So when I'm talking about seeing things in the spirit and understanding things from a spiritual perspective, she's not going to just sit there and look at me and skim over those things, but we delve into those and we're able to talk through that.
Right.
And that's important.
When I was when I was in school at WashU and at the University of Chicago, the most of the therapists that they had were Caucasian, and so I ran through therapists Like it was nothing. Okay, I changed therapy because if they couldn't help me, what was the use of me even being there?
Right.
So it was there was one
You
white
as a
therapist.
client have the right to do
I'm sorry.
that. And you have, as a client, have the right to do that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you have that right. But there was one white therapist who was phenomenal, and she's the one that walked me through that PhD. All right. And but you have to know that person. You have to be able to click with that therapist. All right.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you can move. You are the client.
You're the
right?
client.
You're
You're
the
paying for
consumer.
these services, right?
That's exactly
You
right.
can
You're
get
the consumer.
right.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
And I tell my clients now, yes, I have a therapist. I can't deal with you guys every day without a therapist. I have to have my own therapist. Joking,
right.
a little joking there, but
No, I think
seriously.
that's important. It's like people in helping professions also need to be helped.
Exactly.
And I think, that's one of the things as clergy we don't talk about often, but we're constantly pouring out, we're constantly helping people. I'm constantly praying for people, I'm constantly supporting people, but who's there to help the helper? And
Exactly.
so we need to be intentional about making sure that we have consistent care and help as well, and be comfortable sharing that communication with other people. So I want to, because we're wrapping up. I promised y'all 45 minutes, and we're going a little bit over that time. But I want us to, but we love each other. I know y'all like talking to me. In addition to seeking, or continuing mental health therapy during this time, what are some strategies that people can use to help deal with issues of anxiety, frustration, fear of sickness and death? What are some things people can do to reroute their thoughts during this time? What would you recommend? Like some strategies? Journaling, read it? What? I mean, I'm just throwing some things out there. Y'all are the professionals.
I sing, okay? My children get so tired of hearing me sing. But when I start getting to a point that it's overwhelming, I have to, there will be glory after this. And they said, okay, God's going to turn it around. He will bring you out. That's what I do personally. That's what I do. So if you get to a good song, okay, that speaks to your heart, a scripture that speaks to your heart, but you have to be able to have something that will bring you back, okay? And as my pastor would say, before you bring your righteous mind back, okay? All right.
Yeah, I know I journal. I journal a lot. And I journal. I have a prayer journal. Sometimes it's easy for me just to write my prayers out to God.
Right.
And so journaling is a great way. It's very therapeutic for me. Dr. Hardy, do you want to share anything?
Yeah. I think being intentional about creating space for taking time for yourself I will speak for myself. My days are just going by. I might as well be making tally marks on the wall. And so I have found that if there is not a sense of a structure or some sense of a routine, my days will go by and I will have ruminated on all these COVID thoughts, or I would have thought about all the things that I needed to do and they didn't get done. So being intentional about creating space and time for yourself. And if that looks like creating a morning routine or evening routine, or maybe always going on a walk for lunch. I know I always try to at least walk around at least a little bit in the yard. I will step out into the yard, but not too much farther. But being intentional about making the time to spend for the mental space that you need just to take a breath within your day. And then making these moments that are still going on in our lives just as significant as they still are, but not allowing the grief to steal those moments from us. So like birthdays and graduations and funerals, that is difficult, and that is important to acknowledge. And those are also very meaningful heart experiences that we have the opportunity to shift if we take a moment to think about making that intentional change.
That's helpful. So here's my last question. Some of the post-pandemic projections state that there will be a lot of mental health issues that will arise from the stress and the strain of this pandemic. What can we as leaders, educators, community advocates do now to encourage people to seek mental health services or to start giving more focus on maintaining mental health?
I would start with, I think that we are going to make it through this with a whole lot more skills than we had bargained for.
Exactly.
We were looking forward to 2020, and 2020 came on around.
Yeah. It's been everybody's year.
Vengeance.
And so this is it is a challenge, and those challenges that we get through are then lessons that have built skill and muscle so that we can persevere through whatever is next. Because whatever is next, at least in my faith, is going to be just a little easier, so that my God will show me that, we've gotten through this, and I've, been able to persevere. But I believe that this is an opportunity for us as leaders and educators to help shift the perspectives and mindsets so that we can be in a position of learning, as opposed to a position of, or remaining in a position of being down or overwhelmed.
That's good.
Because so many people are now even talking about, when this is over, I'm still not going out for a while because I want to make sure this thing is going to work. I'm not going out. I'm going to let you all test the waters. All right. So we have to be able to work with and acknowledge that, knowing that their trauma has come. All right. We've got so much trauma that we're dealing with right now. And so those things are going to have to, so we're going to have to that's going to play out in so many different ways. All right. So we'll need to be able to, we've got a lot of work to do.
That's why I wanted to have this conversation, is because a lot of trauma has happened. Yes. And I think it's important, especially with the death and the sickness and the fear of, like you said, even when they open the country back up, and whatever that looks like, of, am I going to be ready? Are we going to have to just go back home? Is it going to be is it a resurgence of it? Like, what are the next phase of our next few months? What does that look like? And so I think it's helpful for us to think about, and especially in the area of mental health, of how we can get prepared. And so I'm grateful for your strategies and your recommendations on, just saying, let's take it day by day. It's going to be all right, but we need to get the help that we need.
We do.
And it's available. And so I'm hopeful. We've shared various sites and information, but you both are mental health professionals, and I want to put your information out there. So let's tell everybody how they can contact you. Please share your social media handles and your information that you want me to share. Because I know, Dr. Brazelton, I know you have a Facebook page. Right. Dr. Hardy, please you have several social media platforms. So let's talk about it. Tell the people.
LinkedIn, you can find me at Jamye, that's Jamye, Hardy, EDDLMSW. But if you spell Jamye the right way, I will be one of the first people that comes up. But LinkedIn, I am Jamye Hardy. And then on Instagram, I am Jamye _ with the _Y, because I am a stand-up comedian as well.
And a very good stand-up comedian, might I add. I've heard you in person. I've seen you in person.
I am on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm Black Butterfly LLC.
Okay.
And on LinkedIn, I'm Jewell F. Brazelton.
I'm typing this in, y'all. I'm doing this on this phone. I'm pulling double duty. They said, spell it. Spell it, doctor. Spell it out.
What, Black Butterfly LLC?
No. They were teasing Dr. Hardy. Spelling her name out. Well, look, I'm going to, make sure to share more of your information as people are still on here and follow up so that people can contact you, they can connect, and then and they
So,
can seek you out further for therapy services. Thank you so much for just joining me with this conversation. It's been therapeutic for me. It's been helpful for me, and I'm hopeful that it's been helpful for those who are viewing this live on Facebook Live. So thank you so much for
yeah,
taking time out of your busy schedules on Friday, because I know y'all got other stuff planned, and I'm
that's
holding
right.
y'all up. I went over 10 minutes, so forgive me for that, and hopefully you'll join me again for another conversation.
I'd like to give a shout out to all of our students. I'm so glad to see you all. That's why I've been looking over here. Oh, there's so. I'm so glad. Love all of you. So glad to see you guys.
Yes, for everybody who has shared and watched, and people got watch parties going on and
Right?
everything. And I didn't post
Wonderful.
this until 6:52
Right.
because
That's all
I had
right,
to make
bro.
sure this was right. So you know what? I'm thankful for that. God did a quick work to
Yes, he
help us
did.
get a viewing audience. So thank you so much.
Okay.
This will not be the last time that we will have a conversation similar to this, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all again.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Good. You guys stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. You too.